to another edition of Bar None 11967. Actually, no, Bar None 11970. See, it's been a little while since I've said that name. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to what I have to say, and I hope you guys are enjoying your day. All right, what I wanted to talk about was something I had basically a dream about, and I love the dreams I have recently. They teach me a lot of things, and they seem more and more real every time. And if you can come away with some kind of knowledge, that is always a good thing, which means they do serve a purpose at times when you pay attention to them. Um, and obviously, what I want to talk about is quote unquote for your freedoms. And I want to welcome everybody that wants to take the time to listen to this. To me, it seems more and more every day as I listen to people speak, as I listen to and read comments and messages, watch other people's videos, talk to people around the world, that I don't know if people really truly understand the depths and complications and the simplicity, all at the same time, of freedom. And one of the things that I've tried to instill in people is their own free thoughts, their ability to do things for themselves. And as you could see with this election, most people want others to do things for them. And that is never freedom. And I've been asked throughout the years, are you a Democrat? Are you a Republican? Are you a capitalist? Are you a socialist? Any kind of ism, any kind of situation. And if you think about that, is that truly freedom? To be pigeonholed in a certain direction. And if you think about it, let's say, for example, you view yourself as a Republican and you have similar ideas to the Republican view. The problem with that is now you are subject to only what that particular party believes in. And as you could see in our government, why we are so divided is that we cannot think on an individual level, we have to think in a group. So is that really freedom? One of the things that people need to understand is freedom means you are responsible for everything in your life, both good and bad. And you cannot say you're free if you have a certain point of view. Like, I've seen so many people saying things like, oh, certain people are socialists, so certain people are fascist, some people, if you think a certain way, you're communist. Well, you cannot be free with any form of government because you are relying on that government system. And if you go outside that, you are considered maybe a traitor. You're mocked, you're criticized, you're even attacked. And the same thing goes with religion. You pigeonhole yourself with your quote-unquote belief system. A true belief system can be changed, can be altered. You can dismiss it entirely. But this world is set to entrap you in so many different ways. Because you feel once you have a belief system that resonates with you, you will never change your ideals. And then everybody else's belief system has to be wrong if yours is right. And if you look throughout the history of this world, who is right when you think about anything? I mean, most people say the capitalistic, democratic way is one of the better ways to live. And if that was true, why isn't everybody that way? And if that's true, why are we suffering so much here? When it comes to religions, who can prove whose religion is right other than what they've been told or what they've read? And why can't things change? Because who's right? And when it comes to freedom, people take for granted what freedom truly has to be. Freedom is taking care of yourself through the good times and through the bad times. And as you could see, and I've talked about the politics, but I talk about it from an observer's point of view, because to me it doesn't matter who is our quote-unquote leader. They're not going to influence how I survive, because I do things on my own. My life is not based on what new government system comes into power. And until we understand truly what freedom is, we will never achieve it. And most people don't want it. If you are on a welfare system, you don't want freedom. If you want to vote for your next leader, you don't want freedom. If you feel your country, wherever you live, is the best country in the world, you don't want freedom. If your God is the only God, you don't want freedom. Because you truly don't know what it is to be free. Freedom is not saying, oh, I could walk around without getting my head chopped off. And there are people that have more freedoms than others. But how are you free when you have to ask permission to do things? How are you free if you are subject to only a certain belief system? Aren't you limited? Think about that. Think about your religion, whatever your religion is. Even if your religion is you don't have a religion. Think about how pigeonholed you are and how limited you are based on your feelings of what you believe in, that you're not willing to change it, that you are willing to hurt others, maybe physically or mentally. And I see that all the time in some of the comments that people leave. And they think, oh, that's my freedom. Well, if you're using your freedom to hurt others, that is a choice. But people do not understand what freedom really is. Because if you did, you wouldn't care and wouldn't want someone else to lead you, someone else to make your rules, somebody to tell you what to do. So whether you are communist, fascist, socialist, democratic, capitalist, whether you're a Buddhist or an atheist, whether you're a Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, if you limit yourself to a certain ism or a certain belief without flexibility, you are limiting yourself. And when you have limits, you are not free. And I talk about the politics because there are people that want to know about it. And I do get curious as an observer to see what it is people truly want. When you look at people like Hillary Clinton, there are people who would vote for her despite the fact that she is a typical politician, the fact that she is a liar, the fact that she has had people in this government that are supposed to be regulating fair and just government on her side, to where no penalties have been given to anyone. You have on Trump's side people who will vote for a man who wants to put up a wall, which not only keeps people out, it keeps people in. That believes that waterboarding is okay because it's not as bad as beheading. Last I've checked, two wrongs don't make a right. And that is why I can go into this saying I may agree with one more than the other, but neither one is going to give us the freedoms that we all claim to want. And until we are true to ourselves, again, the only thing you're doing is hurting yourself. So you can be stubborn. You could not listen to what I'm saying. And many people have stopped watching at this point. And that's perfectly fine because it just proves my point. That people don't want to hear what it takes to be free because that requires effort. And it's easier to shut it off and ignore it. But please, do not claim you want freedom if you are going to pick someone else to rule over you. This has happened throughout our recorded history, so we've been told. So where's the freedom? Are any of you free? And yet we seem to be okay with that, and we seem to claim about how free we are. We seem to love to brag the choices that we make. And again, some places there are more freedoms than others. And I've had so many people ask me, Chris, how do we become free? Well, once you declare you're free, that's the first step. Once you stop depending on others, that's the next step. Once you start doing things for yourself, you're on your way. But when people want handouts, whether it's justified or not, whether people want to be taken care of, whether they want somebody to make up the rules because it's easier, whether you want somebody else to fight your battles, whether you want somebody else protect you and what's yours, you are giving away your freedoms to someone else. And because we are all different, and we all have different beliefs, and we all have all different needs, think about it from a quote-unquote leader's point of view. If you are the few, trying to govern the many, with numerous varieties of belief systems and wants and needs, how do you have the capability of making everyone happy? Has that happened throughout history at any point where every person, man, woman, and child, animal, creature, living being on this planet has been happy all at once? So until you understand the word and the sacrifice it really takes, how could you claim you want something you don't understand? So if you are a proud Democrat or a proud Republican, then congratulations, you've limited yourself in one point of view. That is not freedom. If you believe in a God that you've never met, that you've never experienced anything with, and you only believe in that God because you just happened to be born in a certain location at a certain time, and you were told that that is your God, how do you know the person or the persons that taught you that were right, were honest? Because if you were born in America in the 20th and 21st century, you're going to most likely believe in a Christian God. You're going to believe Jesus was your savior. What if you were born 500 years ago in China? Would you have the same God? What if you were born in the days of when the Greeks were in power? They had many gods. So who's right? They could all be right. There could be some that are right. There could be none that could be right. And yet we put our hopes on other people's teachings to dictate how we live our lives. And if you think about a controlling, ruling class, what better way to keep the people from wanting to murder them by making it into a sin to hurt their fellow man? Now, do you think the people in power truly believe what they preach? Because think of it this way. How many times have you heard jokes and rumors throughout the histories of how priests and others would rape young children, especially young boys? Now, if you truly believe that they believe what they speak of, that you will go to eternal damnation for what they're doing, why would they do it? And why would they do it so frequently? Think about that. Do as I say, not as I do. And how is that freedom? People never think about the deeper levels of why. And that's a question people need to ask more often, is why people do things. Why would a ruling class want to promote religion? Because it teaches control. It teaches restraint. So they, like in the governments, can send other people to murder for them. And they collect all the wealth. Because if you were in the days, in the Dark Ages, where they sent armies to sack a city, the warriors who fought the wars and bled and died for the wars didn't take the rewards. The rewards went to the nobility. and people gladly served. Where's the freedom? Because you got more trinkets, you got to drink and eat a little bit better. You still lived your life based on the rules that somebody else has laid before you. And how many wars throughout history have been wars not just for power or land, but for religious belief? That somebody's God was different than somebody else's god or goddess or gods, and they murdered people and sent other people to die for those beliefs. If you think about what a real creator is, and I thought about this last night with my animals. I have 3 cats, if you don't know that. They're all strays that I took in. Love each and every one of them. And I never want to hit them. I never want to abuse them. They eat better than I do. My wife and I buy organic foods for our cats. We don't give them the 9 Lives and the Friskies and the cheap stuff where they put euthanized, chopped up animals as food. You should research what they put in that generic food. One of them is euthanized animals, collars and all. Now, when you euthanize an animal, there's plenty of toxins in that animal, and you're feeding it to your animals. So we feed our cats. It's expensive, but it's worth it. My wife is kind enough to spend some of her hard-earned currency on helping our animals eat better. But the point is, they are with us, but we are loving. We care about them. We treat them the best that we can. We don't ask anything in return. Now, if you think about religion, if there's truly a creator, don't you love your creation? If you've created something beautiful, let's say you're a semi-artist, you're not a professional, or you drew something for the first time, and in your eyes it's the most beautiful thing. What do you do to it? Do you destroy it afterwards? Do you burn it? Do you mark it up? Or do you put it in a frame and hang it proudly on your wall to display and show off for as long as you can? Maybe even sell it to somebody and be proud that somebody wanted your creation. So if you were a person that could create a living being, why would you want to destroy it? Why would you want to see it have pain and hurt? Think about that. How many mothers, when they give birth to their child, want to hurt it? Want to abandon it? Now, that does happen on occasion, but I seriously doubt that's the norm. The majority of people, when they have babies, they want to what? Love it. Treat it with kindness. Feed it, clothe it, protect it. Educate it, help it grow to be something. And yet, in our religious history, there's been nothing but wars, sacrifices, murders, in the name of supposed gods that supposedly love us. Is that love? Or is that false gods or false people trying to manipulate us and take away our freedoms? What's the best way? If you're an extremely wealthy person who ruled people, how do you control the people? Just imagine, let's say, for example, it's medieval times. You are the king of England. Let's just use them as an example. And let's say you live in your nice, secure castle. And let's say there are, at the time, let's say there are 1 million people that live in England at your time of rule. Let's just keep it an even number. Now, you're going to have maybe 20,000 guards at most, some lords, some people who work the land, and the rest will be the peasants. If you were an unjust ruler, beheading people all the time, taking away their food, stealing from them, doing whatever you wanted, eventually the people would either rebel or leave. Now, a king makes his money and gets his food and has his security from the people. So the last thing you want to do is hurt them, because they'll either betray you and take your head and replace you, or they'll leave. Now, a king will get their taxes from the workers. They will get the food from the farmers. So you need them there. Now, if you are the King of England, can you really, if everybody decided tomorrow that they're all going to leave, how do you stop them? You might stop a few, but can you stop everybody? Can you build a wall around the island? It's not impossible, but it would be very costly, and people can climb over walls, under walls, and break through them. So realistically, you can't do that. And if you have an army of, let's say, 20,000 people, how many people can you guard 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? If they really wanted to leave, they would. You can't bribe them all, because you'd go bankrupt. Maybe some people don't feel that a couple of coins is worth sacrificing their freedom. So how do you keep people to stay? And not only stay, not want to hurt you, and not only not want to hurt you, but want to protect you, and not only want to protect you, but give some of their possessions to you, whether they like it or not. Well, if you make them scared, they'll fend for themselves, they'll protect themselves, but they'll protect you and they'll stay. Why do you think, for example, now, I don't know, because I've heard about the flat earth thing, the round earth thing. I've heard good points for round earth. I've heard good points for flat earth. I don't know. I haven't been above the earth high enough to really be able to tell. So I don't even want to debate that. But let's just assume that the earth is round at this point, just for this argument's sake. I don't want to get into the other stuff because I don't want to hear, oh, this is what it is and this is what it isn't. Because it's based on a belief system that restricts your freedom. Infinite world with infinite possibilities. There are infinite earths. So let's just assume this particular story, we have a round earth. And in medieval times, they would tell people that the earth is flat, and if you traveled too far over, you would fall off the face of the planet. Or, you would be, before you even got there, you'd be eaten by sea monsters. Well, if you lived in the continent of England, Great Britain, and first of all, you were too poor to buy a ship, but even if you were somehow acquired a ship, if you knew there were sea monsters, because that's what you were told, and you knew you'd fall off the face of the earth, you'd probably keep yourself from leaving. So even if the king treated you unfairly and taxed you and took parts of your possessions that you worked for, you'd give them over gladly because it beats being killed or falling off the earth. So if you look at today's flat earth or today's sea monster, it's the terrorist. That, oh, you can never leave, because you'll be killed, you'll be murdered. And here's plenty of examples on the entertainment we like to call news. Doesn't that restrict your freedoms? So we'll complain about our taxes. We'll complain about how police are unfair for the most part, or even for the smallest part. We'll complain about how there's no jobs. And yet we'll continue to vote in people thinking that they, the wealthy, are going to help the masses, even though there is no time in history where that has ever happened. And yet, we continually are persuaded by the very people who trick us to take their word for it that this time it will be different. And when you accept that, it's like selling your soul to the devil. And since when has anyone ever sold their soul to the devil and gotten anything good? Master of deceit, master of lies. Your worst enemy will come at you as your best friend, because it's all based on trust. And if I have learned anything about how many times I've been burned in my life, is you have to be very careful who you put your trust in. I've had many people, they'll swear up and down they'd never be the one to hurt me. They want to just be my friend. You have to trust your instincts. But when it comes to freedoms, we really don't want them. And we want to insult and attack others that try and teach you how to be free. So do they really want freedom? If people are going to attack somebody like me who's trying to get you to think for yourselves, I don't want anything from any of you. I don't ask for anything. I don't make you do anything. Might help you to think a little bit more, but how does that benefit me? Because I want not only myself to be free, I want the world to be free. Because if you think about even the basis of Adam and Eve, where were they created? Were they created with a banking system? With a government rule? With a sword to their necks? Or were they born or placed on the earth in paradise to do as they wanted? And again, if you even think about that, they were forbidden to eat from the tree of knowledge. How are you free then, if you are restricted from doing something? And some people will argue, well, then there will be chaotic people. Well, why does there have to be evil? And again, I'll take it with my cats. I love my cats. I love my wife. I don't want to hurt any of them. I want to do everything that's right. I get depressed sometimes when I feel like I can't do my job the way I want to keep my family happy. But I'm not out to hurt them. I'm not out to plot their pain. And in this world, we've been taught, and I've even preached this, that I learn more as I go and gain more wisdom. Why does there have to be a yin and a yang? Why can't there be just love? Why does there have to be evil? Maybe it's evil saying you have to have both, because if we believe that love is the only answer, then evil would cease to exist. And if you're evil, that's the last thing you would want. So what better way to convince people to keep that evil alive is by saying, well, you can't have dark without light. You can't have warmth without winter. You can't have good without evil. Well, why not? Can anyone explain why? What are the benefits of evil? Yes, it can teach you things, but I'm sure there are better ways to learn without pain, without hatred. How many of you in your family want to murder them? How many people in your family do you want to cause pain? How many people in your family would you enjoy watching suffer? How many of you look to your next door neighbor and say, I hope they get destroyed today? How many of you go to work saying, I can't wait to watch that person be stabbed to death? So why do we need evil? Can anyone answer that question? Isn't it a choice? That's part of freedom. So if everything is a choice, then can't we choose to not have something or not want something? And since everything is choice, then why would you want anyone else to make that choice for you? You're giving away your freedoms to people who profit off of your choice to give away your freedom. And we complain when it happens. Just imagine having a box that says do not open. And out of curiosity, you open it. And a boxing glove on a spring comes out and punches you in the face. How stupid would it be of you to continually open that box again and again and again and think this time it will be different? And how sad is it that you would blame the box? You would blame the creator of the box. You would blame the glove. You would blame the spring that it hit you when it was your choice to continue to open it. And yet that's what governments in our society want you to do. They don't want you to blame yourself or take responsibility for yourself. Oh, you got hurt? Poor you. It's not your fault. Well, why isn't it your fault? If you were silly enough to continually open a box that was causing you pain, it is your fault. And this day and age, you're being taught to not take responsibility for your choices and your actions and your consequences for your actions. That's why everybody teaches you me, now, now, now. Don't think about tomorrow. Tomorrow's only a day away. Well, tomorrow will always be a day away. The only time you're living is now, and by the time you've heard me say now, it's already in the past. Now is forever changing into now. And it's gone. And when you pick any government, whether you seem to think they are honest, you seem to think they are fair, you seem to think they are going to be what you want, they could be 90% of what you want. That 10% is your freedom that you've waved goodbye. You have a religious belief based on where you are, what family you're in, and what time you've been born. That's it. Which one's the real one? The one you say is real? The one that you connect with because you've been told it? And if religion teaches you to hate others and judge others, does that seem like that's coming from a loving God or a jealous, vengeful, hatred God or God wannabe? You got to think deeper. I would never follow any God that feels like the way to love that God is by sacrificing someone else or hurting others or judging them. That's why I could, for example, not believe that a gay lifestyle is right. But I give the freedom for anyone else to make the choice that they want. It's not my right to judge anyone else and stop anyone else and hurt somebody else because they do something that I don't agree with. But who is it in my right to create a law or a policy or some kind of rule that could stop somebody else from doing something that causes me no harm? You're giving away your freedoms, ladies and gentlemen. None of us are free. So do we want real freedom? Because especially in this corporation, and all the world is a corporation, ladies and gentlemen. So you can attack the United States all you want. You're all, wherever you live, whether you live in Spain or China or Singapore or Australia or Canada or Brazil, Iran, Afghanistan, South Africa, all corporations, all owned by people who profit off of making laws and laughing behind your back, telling you how free you are, while they take your money, make you do things like spend your days working. Do you think, if you believe in any God, do you think the purpose of creating you was to put you on an earth to serve others that are not that God? I mean, look at our $1 bill, our $5 bill, our $20 bill. Which, by the way, you ever wonder why we're so much in debt? Well, the money that you have is called a what? It's called a bill. It's a debt note. But they all say, in God we trust. Well, which God are they referring to? And I've made this example. Take out any dollar bill in the world that says, in God we trust, or anything that has to do with a God. First of all, God is not a name. It's not a title, it's a name. Because it depends on who you worship. And like I've said, if you look at your dollar bill, your $5 bill, your $10 bill, your $1,000 bill, there are no crosses. There is no picture of Jesus. There is no white-bearded man in the clouds. You see pentagrams. You see single eyes. You see pyramids. So what God do you think that is? It's not the one that you've been told. And don't you love how throughout history we have wars saying, oh, God is on our side? What loving God wants to see its creation murder and take the lives of others? Isn't that the opposite of creation? But yet we'll justify it and we'll say it's okay because why? The ruling classes who rule us tell us it's okay, so we have to look the other way for fear of our lives being taken. I don't live in fear, and neither should you. But when you want others to rule you, you've given away your freedom. So that is one of the reasons why I will not be voting for my next slave master, whether they are a friendly slave master or an evil slave master. They are still your master because you choose to elect them and you choose to allow these people to run us, to run you, tell you what to do. You notice how our freedoms are getting more and more relaxed, how they're being taken away from us. Your freedom of speech, can't say much these days, don't want to offend anybody. Eventually you won't be allowed to say anything at all. There's some freedom for you. They want to take your right to protect yourself. Well, if you're a government and you want to control people and maybe potentially create mass genocide, well, you don't want people that could fight back, so of course you want to disarm them and limit their way to protect themselves, taking away more of your freedom. Did you know that our government here in the United States of America Corporation has given over the control of the internet to the United Nations? Freedoms are being taken away from us, and we seem to applaud it. People chant, build that wall. Yep, that'll increase your freedom. Walls have always been made to make you free, right? But we'll cheer it because it sounds good. And you cheer your own demise. You cheer the theft of your freedom for you and your future generations because you didn't want to take part in it. You didn't want to hear it. People like me are the easy target because I hold no threat to you. So any of you that are listening right now that feel the need to want to hurt me and bash me and attack me, leave your lovely comments, but know that there'll be no consequences on your end because I don't wish to take your freedom, even if you choose to use what limited freedom you have to want to hurt a fellow human being. If that's what makes you proud, if that's your achievement and your legacy, don't be surprised that you won't be remembered throughout history because you didn't do anything worth remembering. Although the moment of gratification to hurt another probably made you feel good for a few minutes. So, if you truly want freedom, you don't have to fight for it. You just no longer accept somebody else's ruling over you. Why do you think they want people to fight for their freedom? Because most people die for it. Can't be too free when you're no longer living, no longer breathing, no longer able to hug your children, or see your lovely spouse, or whatever you love. When you're dead, you can't take it with you. So if you want to continue to justify any corrupt system, just because maybe yours might be a little bit better than someone else's, and you allow other people, other fellow humans, to suffer, that's a choice. And there are always consequences to a choice, including your choice to do nothing. And that's why I've brought up on several occasions why I love, as far as comic books are concerned, the origin of Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man, is because his inaction to stop the particular bank robber or burglar that robbed the very place that tried to steal from him out of his anger for what the management did to him. If he would have stopped that robber, his uncle would have been alive today. Now, of course, that's just a cartoon and a comic, but it's a moral dilemma. That's why he learned from great power comes great responsibility. In other words, you have to make the choice because if you choose to do nothing, there are still consequences. So you can ignore what I say. You could say, oh, it sounds great. If you continue to do nothing, then you're never going to be free, and you don't want freedom. At least be willing enough to admit it. So, as usual, I want to thank people for taking the time to listen to what I have to say. What you do with it, I can't control, nor do I want to. I am every day doing my hardest to have my freedom, but it's hard to have full freedom when others allow the ruling classes throughout the world dictate what we all do. One person can't change everything, but when you gain thousands, if not millions of people, and they all decide to turn away and say, no more, their game is done. We are the many, and they don't ever want us to be united enough to realize that. That's why they separate us, black and white, gay and straight, Republican and Democrat, abortion or right to live. Lots of different ways to divide you and hate ourselves. And all they do is count our money, live in their nice fancy homes, and wait for the next opportunity to take away more of your freedom. But they can never take. They can only receive what you give. So stand up for what you truly believe in and make the effort. I have many videos teaching people how to become free. Gotta walk away. And until you can do that more and more every day, your freedoms will be disappearing, and one day you won't have them anymore. And it will be our fault. We must take responsibility for what we choose to do, whether it's right or wrong, and that's including doing nothing. So as always, thanks for taking the time to listen to my video. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you soon. Take care, everybody.